Listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to say may shatter everything you thought you knew about winning, losing, and the invisible force that separates champions from those who merely exist. There are two kinds of men walking this earth, those who think like victims and those who think like winners. The victim sees obstacles and stops. The winner sees obstacles and finds the way through. The victim blames circumstances. The winner commands them. The victim waits for permission. The winner grants it to himself. And the difference between these two men? It is not talent. It is not education. It is not luck or birthright or favor from above. It is thought, pure, controlled, directed thought. Because the moment you understand this truth, that your thoughts are not random visitors but architects of your reality, that is the moment everything changes. Your mind is either a battlefield where fear defeats you daily or a kingdom where you reign supreme. There is no middle ground. Right now, at this very moment, your mind is under the influence of something. The question is, what controls it? Is it fear, doubt, the voices of those who said you'd never amount to anything? The weight of past failures, the crushing pressure of present circumstances? Or is it faith, vision, purpose so burning that even death itself would hesitate to stand in its way? Because here is what most men never grasp. Your mind does not remain neutral. It is always under control, either yours or someone else's. If you do not direct it with iron will, the world will direct it with chaos. If you do not fill it with purpose, it will fill itself with poison. If you do not command it like a general commands an army, it will betray you to the enemy. And who is the enemy? Not the man across from you, not the economy, not your circumstances. The enemy is undisciplined thought, the man who lets his mind wander into worry, doubt, fear, resentment, self-pity that man has already lost. He will lose in business. He will lose in love. He will lose in health. He will lose in life, not because the universe conspired against him, but because he surrendered the one weapon God gave him, the power to choose what he thinks. Let me tell you what I discovered after spending 25 years studying the most powerful men who ever lived: Carnegie, Rockefeller, Ford, Edison, Hill, Schwab. These men did not think about failure. Oh, they experienced it. They tasted it. They bled from it. But they did not dwell on it. Winners think about what they want, not what they fear. The average man wakes up thinking about his problems. The winner wakes up thinking about his purpose. The average man thinks about why it won't work. The winner thinks about how to make it work. The average man thinks about what he lacks. The winner thinks about what he's building. Do you see the difference? It's not positive thinking. It's directional thinking. It's the ability to aim your mental energy like a laser beam at a single target and refuse to let anything pull it away. Thomas Edison failed 10,000 times before he succeeded, but he never once thought like a failure. He thought like a man who was eliminating what didn't work so he could find what did. That is winner's thinking. Henry Ford was laughed at, ridiculed, told his vision was impossible, but he didn't think about the mockery. He thought about the assembly line. He thought about the revolution. He thought about the result, and he moved toward it with the certainty of a man who had already won. Abraham Lincoln lost election after election, suffered defeat after defeat, endured heartbreak after heartbreak, but his mind was anchored to one vision, a united nation, free from bondage, and that vision pulled him through hell itself. That is what winners do. They anchor their mind to the future they're creating, not the past they're escaping. Now let me give you a law that will transform your life if you have the courage to live by it. You will never rise higher than the dominant thoughts you entertain. Let this burn into your soul. If your dominant thought is "I'm not good enough," you will prove yourself right. If your dominant thought is "nothing ever works for me," you will attract failure like a magnet. If your dominant thought is "I'm a victim of circumstance," you will remain powerless for the rest of your days. But if your dominant thought is "I was born to win, I was created to conquer, I refuse to accept defeat," then hell itself cannot stop you, because the subconscious mind does not argue, it does not debate, it does not question, it accepts. Whatever you feed it, fear or faith, doubt or determination, weakness or power, it accepts as truth and begins to build your reality around that belief. This is not philosophy. This is not inspiration. This is law, as unchangeable as gravity, as certain as the sunrise. And the moment you understand this law, you become dangerous, because now you know I control the switch. I decide what my mind accepts. I choose what becomes real. But understanding is not enough. You must practice. You must train. You must condition your mind like a warrior conditions his body. Because thinking like a winner is not a one-time decision, it is a daily discipline. Every morning, before the world has a chance to assault you with its negativity, you must speak to yourself, not casually, not softly, with power, with authority, with the voice of a man who knows his destiny. Say this: I think like a winner. I move like a winner. I speak like a winner. And today I will act in perfect harmony with the vision I hold in my mind. You may not feel it at first. That's fine. The subconscious is not moved by feelings. It is moved by repetition with emotion. So you repeat it again and again and again, until the voice of victory drowns out the whisper of doubt, until thinking like a winner is no longer something you do. It becomes who you are. This is what Carnegie taught me. This is what Ford understood. This is what Rockefeller lived by. They trained their minds like athletes train their bodies. They guarded their thoughts like soldiers guard a fortress. They refused to let fear, doubt, or negativity take root. And because they mastered their thinking, they mastered their world. Here's another truth that separates winners from the defeated masses. Winners see opportunity where others see obstacles. Two men face the same setback. One says it's over, the other says it's beginning. Two men encounter the same rejection. One says I'm not wanted, the other says I'm being redirected. Two men experience the same failure. One says I'm finished, the other says I'm educated. What's the difference? Not the circumstance. The thought. The winner has trained his mind to search for the seed of equivalent benefit in every adversity. And because he searches, he finds. The loser has trained his mind to search for reasons to quit, and because he searches, he finds those too. You see, the mind is like a magnet. It attracts whatever it focuses on. If you focus on defeat, you will find evidence of defeat everywhere. If you focus on victory, you will find pathways to victory even in the darkest valleys. Andrew Carnegie once told me, "The man who loses his fortune but keeps his mind has lost nothing. But the man who keeps his fortune but loses his mind has lost everything." Because fortune can be rebuilt, empires can be reconstructed, wealth can be regained, but a man who surrenders his mental throne, that man becomes a slave in his own kingdom. Now listen carefully, because this is where most men fail. You cannot think like a winner if you don't know what you're winning. You cannot have a winner's mindset without a winner's target. You must have what I call a chief definite aim, a purpose so clear, so specific, so consuming that it becomes the organizing principle of your entire life. Not a vague wish, not a hopeful dream, a burning, obsessive, all-consuming vision that wakes you up before the alarm and keeps you moving long after others have quit. The man without a definite aim is like a ship without a rudder, tossed by every wave, blown by every wind, controlled by forces outside himself. But the man with a definite aim, he becomes a force of nature. Nothing can stop him because his mind is locked on target like a guided missile. Ask yourself right now, what do I want so badly that I would endure any hardship to achieve it? What vision burns so hot in my soul that failure becomes impossible to accept? What would I build if I knew I could not fail? Once you have that answer, write it down. Not in vague terms, in specific, clear, unmistakable language. Then read it aloud every morning and every night, with emotion, with fire, with the absolute certainty of a man who has already won. Because here's the secret. The winner wins twice, first in his mind, then in reality. Edison saw the light bulb glowing before the filament was found. Ford saw the assembly line moving before the factory was built. Lincoln saw the nation united before the war was won. They won in thought first, and then reality bent to match their vision. Now let me expose the greatest thief of victory that exists: negative self-talk. Most men are their own worst enemy. They speak to themselves in ways they would never tolerate from another human being. I'm not good enough. I always mess this up. Who am I to think I can do this? I'm just not a winner. Every time you speak these words, even in silence, even in your mind, you are programming defeat into your subconscious. You are teaching yourself to lose. Winners guard their inner dialogue like their life depends on it, because it does. When a negative thought arises, and it will, the winner does not entertain it. He does not debate with it. He does not give it power. He replaces it immediately with a thought of power. Negative thought: I can't do this. Winner's response: I am doing this, and I will not stop until it's done. Negative thought: this is too hard. Winner's response: this is making me stronger. Negative thought: what if I fail? Winner's response: failure is impossible for a man who refuses to quit. You see, the winner understands this truth. You cannot control every circumstance, but you can control your response to every circumstance, and your response begins with your thought. John D. Rockefeller faced bankruptcy, betrayal, and crushing opposition, but he never let those external circumstances control his internal dialogue. He spoke to himself like a man who had already conquered, and because he did, he became the wealthiest man of his time, not because circumstances favored him, but because his thinking did. Here is something that will shock you. Winners fail more than losers. Why? Because they're actually in the arena. They're swinging. They're trying. They're moving. The loser sits on the sidelines and never risks anything, so he never fails, but he never wins either. The winner steps into the ring knowing he might get knocked down, but he also knows something the loser will never understand. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success. Thomas Edison failed 10,000 times, but he thought like a winner, so he called them ways that don't work. Abraham Lincoln lost more elections than he won, but he thought like a winner, so he called them preparation. Henry Ford's first companies went bankrupt, but he thought like a winner, so he called them education. The winner does not fear failure. He mines it for lessons. He studies it. He extracts the gold hidden in the wreckage, and then he rises stronger, because the winner knows, every failure brings me closer to success if I refuse to let it break my thinking. But the moment you let failure convince you that you're a failure, that's when you lose, not because you failed, but because you accepted the label. Winners reject that label. They fail, but they are not failures. They fall, but they are not fallen. They lose battles, but never the war. Why? Because their identity is not tied to outcomes. It is tied to their purpose, and purpose cannot be defeated unless you surrender it. Now let me warn you, you cannot maintain a winner's mindset if you surround yourself with losers. Environment is stronger than willpower. If you spend your days with people who complain, blame, make excuses, and think small, you will become like them. Not because you're weak, but because the mind absorbs what it's exposed to. Show me your 5 closest friends, and I'll show you your future. If they think like winners, you will rise. If they think like victims, you will fall. This is why Carnegie surrounded himself with masterminds, why Ford built a circle of thinkers, why Rockefeller chose his associations with ruthless precision. They understood your mind is either being built up or torn down by the company you keep, so you must be selective, ruthlessly selective. If a person does not lift your thinking, they are lowering it. If they do not challenge you to think bigger, they are teaching you to think smaller. If they do not speak vision, they are spreading poison. Cut them off, not with hatred, but with clarity. Your mind is sacred ground, and you must guard it like a warrior guards his life. Now let me address the lie that keeps most men defeated. I'll act when I feel confident. No, that's loser thinking. Winners act before they feel confident, and confidence comes from action. You will never feel ready. You will never feel certain. You will never have all the answers. But the winner moves anyway, because he knows that courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in the presence of fear. Andrew Carnegie was terrified when he made his first major investment, but he acted anyway, and in acting he built an empire. Henry Ford was mocked when he announced the Model T, but he moved anyway, and in moving, he revolutionized the world. Abraham Lincoln was ridiculed when he issued the Emancipation Proclamation, but he signed it anyway, and in signing, he changed history. The winner does not wait for perfect conditions. He creates them through action, because here's the secret. The universe does not reward thought alone. It rewards thought combined with movement. You can think like a winner all day long, but if you don't move like a winner, you'll die with your dreams still inside you. So act, move, execute, even if you're afraid, even if you're uncertain, even if you don't feel ready, because action is the bridge between the mental world and the physical world. And the man who refuses to cross that bridge will remain trapped in his mind forever. Let me give you a practice that will transform your life if you commit to it for 90 days. Every morning, before you do anything else, you speak to yourself, out loud, with power, with conviction. Say this: I am a winner. I think like a winner. I move like a winner. I speak like a winner. And today, I will act in perfect harmony with my purpose. Nothing will stop me. Nothing will break me. I was born to conquer, and conquer I will. Feel those words. Let them resonate in your chest. Let them vibrate through your entire being. Then ask yourself 3 questions. What is my chief definite aim? State it clearly. What one action will I take today that moves me toward it? Be specific. What thought pattern will I eliminate today that no longer serves me? Name it and kill it. This ritual done daily, with discipline, with fire, will reprogram your subconscious mind. And when your subconscious accepts that you are a winner, your reality will have no choice but to align. Because the outer world always reflects the inner world. Always. Here is the final truth I must leave you with. Your mind is a throne, and you are the king. But every day, pretenders come to take your crown. Fear knocks at the door. Doubt whispers in the corridors. Failure tries to storm the gates. Criticism shouts from the streets below. And the weak king, he opens the door. He lets them in. He listens to their lies. And soon he's no longer ruling. He's being ruled. But the winner, the true king, he stands at the gates and says, not today, not ever. This throne is mine. He does not argue with fear. He commands it to leave. He does not entertain doubt. He banishes it from his kingdom. He does not bow to criticism. He rises above it with dignity, because the winner understands I cannot control what happens outside my walls, but inside these walls, I am king. And no force on earth can take my throne unless I surrender it. So I ask you now, will you surrender, or will you rule? Because you were not born to be a peasant. You were not created to be controlled. You were not placed on this earth to live small, think small, and die with your greatness still locked inside you. You were born to rule, to command, to conquer, to win. And it all begins with one decision: not tomorrow, not when circumstances improve, not when you feel ready, now. Right now in this moment, you must decide. From this day forward, I will think like a winner. Not sometimes, not when it's easy, always. I will guard my thoughts like a fortress. I will speak to myself like a champion. I will act with the certainty of a man who has already won. I will surround myself with greatness. I will mine every failure for wisdom. I will refuse to surrender my mental throne. I will think like a winner, and in thinking like a winner, I will become one. Because here is the law that governs all success. As a man thinketh, so is he. You will never be more than what you think you are. You will never achieve more than what you believe you deserve. You will never rise higher than the thoughts you entertain in the silence of your mind. But when you master your thinking, when you take command of your mental kingdom, when you think like a winner even when the scoreboard says you're losing, that is when the universe bows. That is when doors open. That is when opportunity appears. That is when the impossible becomes inevitable. So I leave you with this final command: go now, think like a winner. Speak like a winner, move like a winner, and refuse to accept any thought, any voice, any circumstance that suggests you are anything less, because you are not average, you are not weak, You are not defeated, you are a winner, and the only thing standing between you and total victory is the decision to think like one. Make that decision now. Burn it into your subconscious. Let it consume you. Let it drive you. Let it transform you. And when the world asks, how did you do it? You will smile and say, I decided to think like a winner. And once I made that decision, defeat became impossible. Now go. Your destiny is waiting, and it will not wait forever.